Hello everyone and welcome back to Foot Forecast, and in today's video I'm going to be ranking January signings. So starting off with the signings that Aston Villa had made, and the first one was Tammy Abraham for £18 million. I think this is a great deal for Aston Villa. I think it's a very reasonable fee if you look at the price that a striker can cost in the Premier League. I think he's got the physicality and strength to play in the Premier League. He's done well in Serie A. He did pretty well at Chelsea during the embargo season. He's previously done well for Aston Villa in the Championship at Villa. So I really think this is actually a very good signing from Aston Villa. And I'm going to rank this as an A signing. I think this will work out really well for Villa. Another Villa signing was Douglas Luiz, and I think this is once again a really clever signing, a really good signing. If you look at the Villa midfielders that are currently out, you've got John McGinn, you've got Kamara, and you've got Youri Tielemans, all out for a decent amount of time. Kamara is out for the season, and Tielemans is out for another 2 months. So a signing like this really makes sense. And if you consider the fact that he excelled in this Emery system earlier, it looks as one of the best signings that they could have made. And considering their PSR constraints, they got him on a loan deal, so it's affordable for Villa. If he plays well, you can look at making this deal a permanent. I think this is a really good piece of business from Aston Villa. I know he struggled with Forest and he struggled with Juventus recently, but I think this is the perfect place for him to get back to his best. So for that reason, I'm going to give Douglas Luiz an A signing for Aston Villa. So then we're on to the next club, which was Bournemouth, and Bournemouth signed Ryan from Brazil for £30 million. And once again, I think we're looking at a great signing from Bournemouth. He's a young Brazilian winger with bags of potential. And a lot of Brazilian football experts were rating him very highly, saying that they think he's got a lot more potential than to be playing for a club like Bournemouth. But Bournemouth are the club that managed to buy him. Partly why this happened is because a lot of the main Premier League clubs had already spent a lot of their money in the summer. He's a great replacement for Antoine Semenyo, who can play across the front three. And for that reason, I'm going to put him in A. Then we're on to Pascal Gross, who has returned back to Brighton. And this is a good signing for Brighton. I thought he was very underrated when he was at Brighton. And he's a player that's loved by the fans. Even if he doesn't turn out to be sort of a great player, I still think he brings back some leadership. And I think this is a good signing for Brighton. I'm going to put Pascal Gross in B. Then we've got James Ward-Prowse to Burnley. I actually really like the signing of James Ward-Prowse to Burnley in on loan, because Burnley have got to look for little specific areas where they could be better at some opposition. And one of those areas could be set pieces, and he's an absolute set piece expert. I'm going to put James Ward-Prowse to Burnley in B. Then we've got Jørgen Strand Larsen to Crystal Palace for a record club fee of £48 million, and it's an expensive deal. I think that's acknowledged by everyone, and I think a lot of people are saying this is an overpay. I would agree. I think they've overpaid by about 10, maybe £15 million. I think £35 million was about right, probably for Strand Larsen. But I still think they're buying a good player. I know he struggled this season at Wolves, but the previous season he was very good for Wolves, and one of the crucial reasons why they stayed in the division. And I think at Palace he can get back to his best, but I still think his best is probably a C transfer, just an alright transfer if you consider the cost of it. Then we've got the next deal involving Palace, and that was Gazan in on loan. I don't really understand the vision of the signing. I assume he's a backup 10, but I just don't think he's sort of the quality that Crystal Palace are after. And look, I think he's a better player than what he showed so far at Villa, and that's what Palace will be relying on, but I just don't really see the signing succeeding. He definitely won't be a starter. Sarr and Yeremy Pino will start over them, and I think Villa were pretty happy to accept this loan deal, which I think is a bad sign if you are Crystal Palace. And I am actually going to put this in E. All the evidence so far to me suggests that this is not going to work out for Palace. So then we're on to the next deal for Crystal Palace, and that is Brennan Johnson. Once again, I'm just not that convinced by the signing of Brennan Johnson. To me, this looks like a backup player for £35 million, because if I'm looking at the best for the front three for Palace, I'm going Yeremy Pino, then I'm going Sarr, and then I'm going now Jørgen Strand Larsen, because of the Mateta injury and the fact he's now going to have surgery, and I don't even know if he's going to play for Palace again. So I think that's probably Palace's best front three. To spend £35 million on basically a backup or a second choice for the 210s, I think is a big fee for a club like Palace to pay. And look, he may do better once Glazner leaves, and this may offer him a better position for him. But I think I am going to put this in D. I don't think this is a very good signing from Crystal Palace at all. Then we've got Fulham, and I love the signing of Oscar Bobb. I think this is one of the signings of the January transfer window for a reasonable fee, I would say, of £30 million. And I just think he's such a talent. And I think over time we'll be saying he's one of the better wingers in the league. I think Oscar Bob's that talented. And I think he would have played a lot of minutes for City this season if he didn't pick up that broken leg injury that set him back. And that actually resulted, I think, in City going, okay, we should probably buy another winger. And they ended up buying Antoine Semenyo. And if Fulham can get this sort of player in, I think it automatically you have to put this deal in A. So then we've got Antoine Semenyo to Manchester City for £65 million. I love the signing. I think he's done really well in a City shirt so far. And I think what people forget with Semenyo is he's very technically underrated and he's very two-footed, and this will work really well for Pep Guardiola. And so far he's been really good. And for that reason, I'm going to put Semenyo in A. And Mark Guéhi, this might be the easiest A of the list. £20 million for Mark Guéhi is one of the biggest bargains I think we've ever seen in terms of the cost for the player you are buying. And I think he'll be a starting centre-half for City for a long time now, will Mark Guéhi. And I'm going to put the signing as well in A. Two great signings by Manchester City. So then we've got Nottingham Forest, and they bought Lorenzo Luca in on loan from Italy. And look, Luca has struggled in Italy with Napoli, but I think at Nottingham Forest, Lorenzo Luca will excel. He's like a regen of Chris Wood. He's 6'7". He's absolutely massive. I think this is a good signing for Forest. I'm not going to quite put this in A because he's struggled so far at Napoli, and for that reason I'm going to put him in B. Then we've got the next signing, which was Luca Netz, just a backup left back. I'm just going to put Luca Netz in C. It's just an alright signing. And Stefan Ortega, backup keeper, good backup keeper. Another C for Nottingham Forest. So then we've got Nilson Angolo to Sunderland, and I think this is probably the one position that Sunderland could improve was on the wing. I think this is probably their weakest position in their whole squad, and they've addressed it. He's cost £17.5 million, and he's from Belgium. I don't know a lot about him, and I'm just going to base this off what I think Sunderland needed, and for that reason I'm going to put him in B. So then we've got Spurs, and Spurs bought Conor Gallagher for £34 million. And I'm a bit unsure what I think about the signing, because I actually think he's a good player. I think Conor Gallagher could do a job for a club like Spurs, and I really like his pressing. He's very good at carrying the ball. But is that what Spurs actually need? And this is what's going to take the signing down, I think. I think Spurs need an elite progressor of the ball. So for that reason, I'm going to put Gallagher in C, because I don't think he is that. And then we've got Souza, the left back, just a backup left back, and for £13 million. Once again, I've never seen him play. I'm going to put this, though, in D, because I think it makes no sense. Spurs needed to go and get first-choice players this window, or players that could come in and do a good job now. That's what Spurs require because of the lack of squad depth they have because of injuries. But instead, they're spending £13 million on a player for the future. So for that reason, that is going in D, because that £13 million could have been used in another position. So then we've got West Ham, and West Ham made quite a few signings. The first one was Pablo Felipe. I'm unsure about this signing. I haven't seen him really play, but it very much feels like a risk for £20 million. And with West Ham's situation, they don't need risks like this. So for that reason, I'm going to put him in D. Then we've got Tate Castelos, and I'm going to put this straight away in E. I really don't like the signing. He's actually started off all right, in fairness to him, but he's failed in Serie A. And for £30 million, this needed to work, and this has to work because West Ham have to stay in the Premier League, and I don't think this is going to work at all, so I think this should go in E. It may seem harsh, but I don't think he's going to put the ball in the back of the net for West Ham, and they've had a problem with strikers for so long. Then for West Ham, we've got Disasi in on loan. I don't mind the signing of Disasi. At worst, he'll be decent cover. It's worth a risk. It's just a loan deal. And for that reason, I'm going to put him in B. I think the frustration with this deal was the fact that they missed out on Howard Bellis, and Disasi they got was their backup option. So finally, we have got Wolves. And Wolves, first of all, brought in Adam Armstrong for £7 million. That is a good signing to make if you're preparing for the Championship, and that is exactly what Wolves are doing. And I'm not going to criticise this because Wolves are going down, and they might as well pick up a good player like Adam Armstrong so he's ready to play next season, and there's no other competition for him. So for that reason, I'm going to put Adam Armstrong in B. And we've got Angel Gomez to Wolves, and I think this is one of the best signings of the window. Wolves have spent £7 million on a player that was playing for England last year. And he played really well for England. People were talking about him potentially being in the England squad at the start of last season. But at Marseille, he's been disappointing. And that's why Wolves have picked him up for such a good fee of £7 million. And I'm shocked that it was Wolves that managed to sign him. I thought for sure another club would come in and pick up Angel Gomez, but no, he is a Wolves player, and for that reason, I'm going to put him in A. Let me know your thoughts on my ranking, and if you enjoyed this video, go subscribe to the YouTube channel, as well as liking the video.